Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Data Science Hangout. I hope everybody's having a great week. If it is your first time joining us today, it's very nice to meet you. I'm Rachel. I lead our pro customer community here at Posit. This is an open space to chat about data science leadership, questions you're facing, and getting to hear about what's going on in the world of data across all different industries and companies. And so every week we feature a different data science leader as my co-host for the day to help lead our discussion and answer questions from you all. And I'm going to mute somebody again. Hannah, if you could help with that. But together we're all dedicated to making this a welcoming environment for everybody. So we love hearing from everyone, no matter your level of experience or area of work. It is totally okay to just listen in to Hangouts too. But we do want to hear from you as well. So there's 3 ways you can ask questions or also provide your own perspective. So you can jump in by raising your hand on Zoom. You could put questions into the Zoom chat and feel free to just put a little star next to it if you want me to read it, or else I could call on you to introduce yourself and add some context too. We also have a Slido link where you can ask questions anonymously. And Hannah will share that here in the chat in just a second. We do share the recordings of each session up to the Posit YouTube, so you could always go back and rewatch or share with a friend too. There's a LinkedIn group as well, which we'll share in the chat. We've been a little quiet in there lately, but if it's helpful for connecting with people after the fact, I encourage you to join that group too. But with that, thank you so much, Namrata, for joining us as the co-host today. Namrata Shetty Anderson is Advanced Analytics Manager at the UPS Store. And I'd love to have you maybe start by introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about your work, maybe something you like to do outside of work as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. I was really happy when Rachel reached out. This is my first data science hangout as a featured leader. I've attended a few as one of the attendees, and I think that's where Rachel found me. As she pointed out, I'm Namrata Shetty Anderson. I know my name is difficult to pronounce, so you can call me Ratty. That's what everyone calls me. I'm cool with it. I'm an advanced analytics manager at the UPS Store. I've been with the company for about 5 years now, actually almost 6 years now. And I lead a team of 6 analysts, and together we do everything data. We're the data nerds of the organization, and anything that has anything to do with data goes through us, whether it's bringing data on premise, whether it's building reports, dashboards, predictive analytics, machine learning, wrangling, cleaning, everything about data for this organization goes through us. In my free time, I'm boring. So in my free time, I'm either playing with data. My husband has a PS5. He plays, Call of Duty or Last of Us or what have you. And I'm playing with random data sets online, trying to learn new things. Or I'm with my dogs. I have 2 big dogs and a cat, and they take up most of my time. So I'm either with my dogs and my husband and my cat, or I'm with data. So that's pretty much all about me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And it is always really fun to have someone who joined us, an attendee in the past, be the featured leader for the week too. So excited to have you here. I'd love to, it sounds like so many different data projects go through your team. I'd love to understand a little bit about maybe like an example project that you work on.
Sure, I'll share what I can. So like I said, my team handles everything, so we have a little bit of, what we call ourselves as shadow IT or data engineering. We do a little bit of that. We have a little bit of descriptive and, just building reports, that kind of stuff. And then we have a set of us that does, predictive analytics, forecasting, machine learning, that kind of stuff. So the way projects roll into my team is, say there's a company project that's ongoing. They're going to come to us for probably KPI reporting for that project. So we're going to put, maybe do some wrangling in R and put together an ad hoc report. Or we also have a Power BI service where we publish dashboards for the users. So that's where all our descriptive stuff goes. And then we have, predictive models for everything. We're the UPS store network. So if you know about us, we have, over 5,100 locations across the country. So my team is in charge of forecasting how much revenue those stores are going to generate, how much volume is going to go through these stores, what is the customer traffic going to look like, assisting with staffing for the stores, that kind of stuff. So we build models to assist with those things as well.
Thank you. I know when I was looking at the bio that you sent in, you specifically talked about like you get excited to tell stories with data. And I like the way that you framed that. I'm wondering, do you have any tips for us on how to tell better stories with data?
Sure. So this is something that, I've actually struggled with in the past, I'll say. This is something that I learned was an area of improvement for me. So over the last few years, I've really focused on this area. So definitely I can tell you what I know. In my mind, data science is as much a science as it is an art. To be able to tell your story, you could write hundreds of lines of code and you could build amazing models, but at the end of the day, if you can't translate it to a non-data person as a data story, all that is a waste, right? You're not adding any value. Businesses don't care about your code, right? My boss doesn't care about my hundreds of lines of code. He wants value. So I call it the art of data stories, right? It's telling your data story. That's an art. So one thing I started doing, and I took a course by Kevin Hartman from Google, which talks about, how data storytelling is an art. And one thing I learned from that course is you want to start with a solution for the problem in a tool agnostic environment. Don't start with your tool when the problem is posed in front of you, because what happens is the tool is going to limit your ability to tell your story, right? If I say I'm going to use Power BI, then I'm going to be limited to the visuals that are available in Power BI, right? So what I started doing, literally blank page and a pen. What do I want my outcome to look like? And once I know what that story is going to look like on a blank sheet of paper, then I decide what tool I'm going to use. Now, the tool is going to depend on how quickly do I need to turn this around, how complex is this task, and how good am I with this tool, right? So those are the things you need to look at. So everyone's, oh, Python's better than R is better than Python. No, Power BI is the way to go. Tableau is the way to go. No, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. Your tool of choice will depend on the problem you're trying to solve. So that is what I'm going to say.
I really love that perspective. I see a lot of comments in the chat too. I've thought about that before too, even when you're making presentations, like sometimes if you jump straight into the like slides, you become attached to them. You like don't want to give them up, even if it wasn't the right way to communicate it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Don't fall in love with anything you're doing. Don't fall in love with it, because that's what the data world is. Today, you're doing it one way. You're going to find a better way to do it as you keep learning. There's always a better way.
Priyanka, I see you had asked in the chat about that course, and I was trying to find it at the same time as well. Namrata,
Sure.
do you know what the name of that was?
Yes, just give me 1 second to look for it. It was Business Analytics, Communicating with Data by Kevin Hartman. And I did it on Coursera, but it might be offered elsewhere too. So I wouldn't limit myself to Coursera.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Marlene, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, hi, good morning or afternoon. I don't know where everybody's at, so it could be evening if you're 8 hours ahead. I apologize. Hello to whatever day you're in. Namrata, thank you. I mean, I'm already digging all the things you're saying. Much love to just kind of throwing the box away and starting with a new box instead of thinking outside the box, in the box, etc. So my question's kind of targeted, and I don't want you to feel like you're giving up trade secrets, because that's not what I'm probing for. But so my mom used to work for UPS in loss prevention for many moons. Like she was there for, I think, 28 odd years.
Wow.
And it's really cool though, because she was kind of a pioneer. I have to say that I think it's one of the qualities that I hope I inherited from her, where she's a bit of a sleuth and wants to provide solutions to problems. So one thing she did though, this was back on pen and paper, was she used to do credit card fraud tracking. So she would take known credit card fraud addresses, is what she called it, excuse me, where some she used to work in the downtown LA hub here in Los Angeles. And she used to say, okay, there's this one address in the middle of like a not so good neighborhood, and there are 5 credit cards that are all sending stuff to the same address. And she would do this by hand. And then eventually, when I was very early on in my data analytics career, I built her a little database so she could easily look stuff up and see duplicates for a single address, things like that. And it wound up saving like millions of dollars. I didn't realize until at the end of the year, one year, her boss came and said, do you realize we got a letter from Disney that said that you've saved them $5 million this year because of all, like, people would send, for
Wow.
example, tickets to Disneyland in boxes to these addresses bought on stolen credit cards or fraudulent credit cards. And for those of you familiar with Southern California, we have Knott's Berry Farm. Around October, we have Knott's Scary Farm, which is a really big event for a theme park. Also, hundreds of thousands of dollars she would save them from fraudulent tickets being sold and purchased on credit cards. So what I'm getting to, I'm sorry, it's a very long backstory. I tell jokes the same way too. It's like an epic, backstory and then a punchline. How has maybe the analytics for that, have you started to see that maybe make their way to your team, where you can maybe on a national scale or even a global scale kind of understand like the fraud part of it, and
Sure.
or because it's easy to do kind of just like sales profit loss that way, but I found credit card fraud really cool in that respect, because it's
Yeah.
just such a little niche pocket of saved revenue, we'll say, or loss overhead prevention, right? So anyway, that's kind of my question.
Yes, that sounds very cool. That sounds like a very cool project you worked on and your mom worked on. So the UPS store is a subsidiary of UPS, so I'm not as involved on the UPS side of things as I am on the store side of things. Although I'm learning, I'm starting to make that transition. But yes, fraud detection is one project that we actually worked on last year, but it was a different kind of fraud. For sensitivity reasons, I can't share the details of that project, but we did have fraudulent behavior happening in the stores, and we were able to use our point of sale database to actually help identify, not pinpoint the fraud activity, but identify the likelihood that, hey, this seems like something we want to go and question. And I'm not even exaggerating. So we started last year in April is where, our finance team came to my group and said, hey, look, we're seeing this behavior. What can we do? So we built a dashboard that does, it gives them all this information. You could see on an outlier graph, the fraud activity for April was like for April and March was like a huge spike. And there were spikes even like rolling 12 months before that. So it's been happening for a while. Once we addressed it with this report, 2 months later, up until now, it's like a straight line. So whatever action was driven by that data helped us kind of mistake proof the system such that we don't allow that kind of fraud anymore. We kind of got ahead of it. So I think that was one of the cool projects we worked on for sure.
That's so rad. Thanks for sharing and putting up with my very long backstory.
Oh, no, I loved it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the stories. I see Andy just said in the chat too. I love the learning, but truth be told, I'm here for the stories. So I see Caitlin had asked a question earlier, and I'm going to read it for you because I know you're in a cafe. But the question was, what did your journey to leadership look like?
Ooh, that's a cool one. All right. So as much as I may not seem like one, I am not a very people-oriented person. I happen to be an introvert. And the only reason I'm able to talk to you guys so well is because you're on a screen and not in the same room as me, so it helps. So leadership was not something that was on my radar, that I didn't think I was, good for. But I started out when I joined the UPS store, I started in a low leadership level position where I had 2 analysts reporting to me, and I was part of the same team I am today. I think the key factor towards me moving to the leadership role was the fact that I can communicate my data stories, right? In the data world, if you want to make it to a leadership role, even if you don't want to, and if you somehow make it there, the driving factor is going to be your ability to tell stories with your data. And 2 is to build a level of confidence in the organization, because let's face it, you're going to come up with amazing data stories. And if they don't, tell a story that people want to hear, it's going to be hard to convince them to, still do what the data is telling them to do. If it's counterintuitive, right? Because a lot of businesses have, years and years of experience. Your subject matter experts are going to use gut feeling, or what I like to call just, their intuition, which is right sometimes, but sometimes it's not. So I think a big factor, at least in my success in my current role, was the fact that I was able to build better confidence in our data. And the way I did that was, the first thing we did was we had data sitting in so many different databases, Excel files, what have you. We started working towards one source of the truth, right? We're still not there. 5 years in, I'm telling you, we're still not there. And it's a long, long journey there, but at least we're working towards it, improving your data quality. Second was, I'll give you an example. So we have a model that forecasts store-wide sales for the month. That helps us understand how much revenue we're going to generate. That helps us understand how much we can spend for projects, how we can manage our expenses for the month, right? It all trickles down. So we used to send this forecast to the accounting group to let them know, hey, we're going to make plan or not make plan. So you need to cut back on expenses, or hey, maybe this is a good month to have some additional expenses. Before, 5 years ago, the way it was done was, if we had a forecast, we would always tone it down because we were afraid, what if the model's wrong, right? And our model wasn't great. Over the course of time, we built a model that was so strong and robust that eventually we just let the model. Today, I don't even tell people, it's just there. It's sitting there. People can go look at it and be like, oh, okay, we're going to make plan, or we're not, right? So it was a journey to get to a point where people have confidence in the data. So if you're one of those people who can drive, improvements, who can build confidence and share your data stories and communicate it to a non-data environment, to someone who doesn't understand anything about data, then you're on the path for leadership, is how I'll say it. Of course, the other aspect of it is managing people, which I have learned through experience as, a type A who's like, striving to get everything perfect. I do struggle with, balancing empathy with accountability. But I think experience teaches you that as long as you're open to learning and realizing that you have to change your ways, you can't manage everyone the same way. So the path to managing people, you just learn with experience, is how I'll say it. I hope that answers the question. I know it's a very long answer.
That's really great advice. Thank you. Alan, I see you had asked a question too. Do you want to jump in next?
Yeah, I sure will. Hi. So much of this really resonates thinking about what overlap between what your team, no matter, is doing and what my team is doing. And with a team that's as small like yours, but has really, really broad sets of responsibilities, I wonder what your approach is with the team, thinking about professional development and skill building when it's really hard to say, your work is going to look like data engineering, or your work is going to look like data science. Balancing everybody's expectations and career goals in a small team like that with lots of responsibilities has got to be really hard. And so I wonder what that looks like for you.
That's a great question. I've been in this leader position for 2 years now, and I am so proud of how far this team has come. I have to say, I can't take all the credit, and I won't take any credit, but I am very glad that I have a very good team. I have a very reliable team. So I'm going to say that. They're amazing. They're awesome. I love them. So part of it is because they're awesome, right? The second half of it is I've been trying to focus on, so look, being in data science, managing a data science team is different than managing a team that's operations driven, or a team that's product driven, or even a team that's a software engineer team, right? It's different because problems that come to a data science team are not always well defined, and the solution is not a cookie cutter. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, right? There's a research oriented approach to what we do. So what you need is that drive to keep learning. And not everybody has that drive. So that is something that we've been kind of working on as a team. So here's what we do. We have been doing. My whole team has, the option of picking their learning platform. Some will pick Coursera. Some are going to pick, I want to attend a virtual summit by Power BI, or I want to buy this book, whatever. Mm-hmm. You tell me what your best learning approach is, and you can have it. Right, we'll make sure. So and the team is also encouraged to spend block off time on your calendar, X hours a week or X hours a month, whatever you like, to focus on learning, and put it on your calendar. No one's gonna bother you. Do we do it? Sometimes they'll block it off and then they won't do it. It happens to the best of us. The other thing I started doing is every year, around the middle of the year, we have kind of a week-long boot camp, as I call it, where we bring in a certified. So we've been doing R. I've been focusing, my team has been focusing on R for the last 2 years at least. So what we had as a certified instructor come in and just work on, little projects with the team. So we had a week-long boot camp where the team was not bothered by anyone, just to focus on learning. And then the third thing, and I think this is where it kind of closes the gap, is you can learn everything online, you can learn from instructors, but then when you have to apply it in the real world, it's not a one-to-one translation. Real world data is not normally distributed. Real world data has noise in it. It doesn't work. So what we started doing is we started having monthly sessions. We started out with best practice sessions where one of the team members would say, hey, look, this is a project I worked on, and here's how I approach the problem. So this helps someone that's new on the team, someone that's learning that software, to kind of get some exposure to it. The other thing we started doing more recently is we said, you know what, we're kind of maxing out on our best practice sessions. We have nothing to share at some point. So we started doing micro assignment. So I have a very, I don't know if she's on the call today, but she was going to join. My team member, Liz, she's the supervisor of the group, or part of the group. She puts together micro assignments for the team with real work data. Like, hey, look at these online reviews, look at this customer data, or look at our sales data, and perform these operations in R. Because last year, our goal was R. And the team would do those assignments. A month later, when she gives them a new assignment, we meet to discuss how everyone approached their assignment. And you learn a lot. You learn more when you make mistakes than when you successfully complete an assignment, in my mind. So I think that helped the team kind of, get their feet wet, if you will, with R. 2 years ago, the same was Power BI, right? So 2 years ago, our goal was Power BI. Now we switched to R. We'll pick something for this year, and that's how we've been doing it for the team. I hope that answers your question, Alan.
It does. It's great. Thank you. I love that idea of micro assignments, and really, really like the emphasis on learning and kind of letting people drive a path that they're interested in. If we come back around to it, it'd be great to hear more about how you manage expectations that people have of, well, I'm learning this stuff, but I'm not getting to use it. So maybe I'll plant that seed. I don't want to keep going. I want to hear what other folks are interested in talking about. But thank you.
I will add one other thing, Alan. So two other things. The other thing that, because my team does so many things, we have predictive, we have descriptive, we have data engineer, like little bit of data engineering, not as much. We also put together like a central kind of repository where we have reference guides,
Mhm.
best practices, a lot of documentation, to the point where today someone new joins my team, all I'm going to tell them is, hey, look, you're going to spend your first week just reading everything that's on that repository. So that gives you,
Mhm.
and then ask questions. So I think documentation, process documentation plays a very important role, and it allows us to kind of cover for each other, right? Because we want to
Yeah.
rely on processes that make our people's lives easier, as opposed to saying, oh, hey, Matt's out of office today, so this work's not going to get done. So that's one. And then setting expectations is, you just have to realize that you may learn something and you may not get a chance to apply it in the real world, because organizations are not always ready for, machine learning. They're not ready.
Yeah.
They're not there yet to use these fun, cool things in data. You still have to clean the data. You have to do the grunt work. You have to do the non-fun aspects to get to the fun aspects. But don't wait for someone to come ask you to apply it. You know where the data is. You know what you've learned. If you really want to apply it, go apply it. And if you can build something that's useful and adds value, hey, I'll make sure the organization uses it. So that's
Awesome.
how I approach that.
That's great. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Andy, I see you have your hand raised. You want to jump in next?
Sure, thanks. Yeah. Hi. My question is, so you just mentioned that you have sort of a landing page for folks that are onboarding that come in new, and our group where I work was talking about putting together a Teams channel. I'm wondering if you have some tips on, just some of the must-haves for setting up a space like that for your team.
Sure. So what we use, so our organization uses Office 365 for most things. So, we have, a Teams group. We don't have a channel yet because we're a small team. We don't really need a channel. But we have a SharePoint. SharePoint is where all my documentation sits. But it doesn't have to be SharePoint, as long as it's a collaborative platform where everyone can access it. So I don't know if you use Google Drive. Start with the simple platforms. We can get to a point where we are, able to use Azure DevOps or Azure Data Lake or Git or what have you. But I started with something very simple. It's Microsoft Word documents posted on SharePoint. Eventually, today that folder looks beautiful. It's got subfolders, it's got everything. But when I started, it was one folder with the Word document in it.
That's perfect. Yeah, we're also using Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. So
perfect. Yeah, SharePoint
I think
is
that's
amazing.
where we're starting. Thanks.
Sure.
So as you were explaining like those micro assignments and monthly sessions, and you mentioned that week-long boot camp, I realized Catherine and I had the same question at the same time. Catherine and I were slacking. But did you have to convince your leadership that the team should be given a week for learning and to not be bothered by other things?
Well, not really. Again, I consider myself very fortunate because I've had amazing leaders and an amazing team. So I've had an environment where I've been able to succeed. And I realize that not everyone has that privilege. But there have been, so when it comes to the business has to go on, right, during that week. So the way I've been doing it is I set expectations weeks ahead. So today, the way people come to us with data requests, again, I use SharePoint for that, is I built up a form where people can go and submit their requests with all their requirements. Of course, sometimes people don't know what they want. So that's where the data person has to tell them, hey, this is what the data looks like. But I have a platform where they can go submit these requests. So, maybe 3 weeks ahead of the training, I just set expectations with all the managers, letting them know, hey, we're going to be in training that week. So the turnaround time for these requests is not going to be as quick. So if you have anything that you can plan ahead for, plan ahead. And if an emergency situation arises that week, then I would be the one that bows out and takes care of it. thankfully, I do have the I realize not all leaders have the technical expertise to do what their teams do, but because I've kind of come from where the team is today, I can manage most emergencies. So I was the one on call, and then I had one of my supervisors on call with me in the event we had to step out. 2 years ago, I did have to step out a lot. Last year, I did not have to step out at all. So it just depends on what's happening at work that week. But I made sure that the analysts on the team were not disturbed.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
Eric, I see you asked a question. You want to jump in?
Yeah, it's been great hearing your perspective on these. Really appreciate it. And I really agree with, the emphasis you said on helping teams improve the process of not just doing the technical work, but helping others on that journey, especially with documentation, internal resources. But what I've seen is sometimes leadership up in the chain, so to speak, don't really see the value of that side of the work as opposed to just getting that technical deadline done or getting that, that piece. I don't know, I'm curious what your take is on getting leadership to recognize that that side of it, of helping people, as Libby said, the glue work, I really like that, is just as important as everything else. Just curious your thoughts on that.
So you're right. You're absolutely right. Where for the most part, people in our roles are working day to day, just putting fires out. And prioritization on the long term is not always an option, right? The way I did it is I just did it. I didn't go asking for permission. I didn't say, hey, look, we should do this. I just did it. And when I did it, now I can show the results. I can be like, hey, look, when my team members are out, the business can still continue because we have tools in place to help, to support the team. When you give me someone new, my team, that person can learn quickly because of this tool that we've put together. So the best way to convince leadership is just do it and then show them the results. Because to play the devil's advocate in the leadership's defense, they're not gonna prioritize something if they don't see that it can add value, right? It's all about value. And I feel like in my position, I'm a mid-level manager. I have some level of freedom, to make some changes, to, change the rules. So I just do it. I don't go seeking permission. I do it. And then if they like it, great. If they don't, I'm fully prepared. If it gets rejected, it's going to get rejected. I can't tell you how many slides I've put together with amazing ideas. And maybe a couple have been selected, right? So you have to kind of balance that out. You just have to do it, be prepared for rejection, but do it, show the results. And that's the best way to drive change. And one other thing I would also add there, Eric, I definitely recommend this book. It's called Subtract, especially if any of you are on the path to that, leadership path in the data science world. I would highly recommend the book Subtract because it's not always about what you need to do. It's also about what you need to stop, right? There was a time my team was building reports week after week, sending them out. We're spending all this time and we didn't know what those reports were being used for. And again, I'm lucky because I have good leadership. This was a recommendation. This is something I learned from our CEO. She recommended this book to me. This is what she told me. She's like, look, don't send those reports. Just stop and see how many people come knocking at your door for that report. And that's exactly what I did. To the point where now I have a policy in my team where if we think something is not being used the way it should be, we put it on what we call a 90-day pause list. We don't tell anybody. We put it on a 90-day pause and see how many people come banging on our door. Sometimes they do. We put it back up. We're like, okay, sorry, we were just testing. And sometimes they don't. And after 90 days, I just sunset it. Like, we're not doing this anymore. And I can't tell you how much time that has freed up for us to actually focus on things that matter. So subtract is just as important as add. So that's something I would add there, Eric, for sure. Prioritization.
Absolutely love it. I'm on that journey as we speak, seeing some legacy processes or
Yep,
capabilities that frankly have stagnated. And
exactly.
why do we keep maintaining it when maybe just focus somewhere else? That's excellent advice. I'm going to check that book out. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you. I'm saving that to go buy this right after too. Libby, I see you asked a question. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I asked a couple actually.
Oh,
My first question
start with
was,
whichever one you prefer.
yeah, my first question just how did you get into data, which might be a longer answer, but the other one, I was also really interested in how you handle failure, both in yourself and in your teammates. You talked a little bit about that though, right? Just do it, and a small
Yeah.
percentage of stuff is going to stick, right?
Yeah. So I'll answer the first one later. I'll answer the second one because it's a shorter answer.
Yeah.
I read this so this is how I look at failure. Personally, if I fail at I'm very hard on myself, and my husband will attest to that. Like, he's had to talk me down a lot. So as put together as I come across, I'm not. I can be a total mess sometimes. I'll make one tiny mistake and I will harp on it all day. Like, oh my God, how could I do that? If I do that to myself, you can imagine how I do that to my team sometimes. Like, they might miss something, miss a deadline here and there, and I can get a little naggy about it. But because I know that I do that, I've been consciously working on, okay, mistake has happened, failure has occurred. Focus on what is the impact, right? At the end of the day, we're not saving lives. Right? If I make a mistake, nobody died, right? Remember the Tesla accident, but nobody died, so it's fine. No, but I'm just joking. But that's it, right? You have to remind yourself every day, at the end of the day, you're not saving lives. What is the impact of this failure? And if the impact of the failure isn't significant, then the failure is actually a good thing because you learn from it. So I love to learn, and I have to remind myself every time I fail that this is a learning opportunity. It's okay. Over the course of time, and I hope my team will attest to this, I've also learned to do the same with them. 2 years ago, when I became manager, I was picking on every little thing, right? Today, someone forgets to send something out, and my response is, no worries, it's okay. And I genuinely feel that. It took me a lot of conscious mindfulness to get to this point. So unfortunately, there's no secret to it. It's just you have to be conscious and mindful about it and realize that the impact of it is not as significant as you make out to be in your head. And then failure just seems like a learning opportunity. I hope that answers your question.
No, it's great. Thank you so much.
And then how I got into the data world. All right. I'm an industrial engineer. I have a bachelor's in production engineering. I had one statistics course in my master's and one multivariate course. So no, my schooling did not lead me into the data world. I was working in logistics as a research assistant, looking for jobs when I landed this one with UPS. So it wasn't a planned job. I was an industrial engineer working in continuous improvement, doing a little bit of analytics, but not as much as I'm doing today. I ended up in this role. I was an immigrant at the time, and I had 15 days on my visa to find a job when I landed this job. So I was in Georgia, and I drove all the way to San Diego for this job because I had 15 days or I had to leave the country. So there was luck played a big factor in my entrance to the data world. But once I was here, I was like, I'm not going back. When I joined this role, I knew how to use Power BI. I knew a little bit about Tableau. R I had only used for school projects, and Python I had no idea. Okay. I learned on the job. I focused on learning. I realized how fun the data world can be. I was very fortunate to have a peer who was very, very helpful in my learning curve being like super accelerated. And here I am today. So honestly, I wish I could tell you, that I grew up dreaming of being a data scientist, but I didn't. I really did. I just ended up here. And when I was here, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. I'm going to stay.
I don't think anybody wants to be a data scientist when they're a kid.
Yeah, we're taught to hate math.
Right,
I mean, but
it's
I'll tell
very
you one thing.
silly.
I loved math my whole life. So that's one of the reasons engineering was the path for me, because math was my favorite subject in school. If I got a 99 out of 100 in math, I would be crying. Going back to me being hard on myself. But I guess my love for math somehow led me here, but it was not planned at all.
Now I'm starting to think like, what did we all want to be when we were little, and how it like got to what we are doing now. And I was just thinking, Marlene, when you say like you wanted to like, or you were talking about like being a sleuth and finding things in the data. I can remember like wanting to be a detective or and like it's kind of the same thing with data too.
I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid because I love animals. But when I was like 10, I realized that every time I see blood, I pass out. So that was a no. But yeah, I never thought of the data world until I really got into it.
I see there was an anonymous question a bit earlier, and it was, how do you handle managing the hidden metadata that is based more in historical knowledge versus well-documented?
Yeah, we've struggled with that a lot. Because we didn't have a lot of documentation. We still don't have documentation for a lot of historical data. But what I started doing, and this has been since I joined the organization, I just can't remember stuff. I hate having to remember stuff. So I write everything down, like OneNote and Google Keep, and those are like my best friends. So I write everything down because I have trouble remembering stuff. And the way I look at it is, if your computer is if your brain is your computer, why would you want to waste your hard drive with information you don't need to, right? You don't need to keep there. So what I like to do is I just put all that in my notebook so that my mind is free to actually focus on things and do some thinking. So when I joined, this is something I learned quickly, that we didn't have a lot of documentation. So I just started asking questions. Again, I have a good mix on my team. I have people on my team who've been with the organization for many, many, many years. I have people across the organization who've been with us for many years. So I just started asking. A lot of questions, and I still do that. Every time I'm, given a project I don't know much about because I don't have the history, I'm just going to ask the stupidest possible questions, because no question is too stupid. So one thing you have to do is not be afraid of, coming across as stupid, just ask questions. I write down those answers. My notebook became my source for everything. When I, became the leader of the team, I realized, what? Everybody on the team could benefit from this. And that's when I started posting this on our shared folder. And today we have data dictionaries, I want to say for 80% of our key data sets. We have data dictionaries to help us out with the metadata. So it was just something I started putting. And now when we have new data sets come in, we ask for the data dictionary upfront. We ask that the data dictionary be created upfront so that in the future, no one has to do what we had to do to get here. So we just started by asking questions, putting it together, and now we have something.
Catherine, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just following up on that last statement, at what point do you decide as a data science team that it's not your team's responsibility to be producing those documentations and those data dictionaries? And like, where is that your team grows enough that you can split off like a baby team, or is that, something that you find yourself needing, that you shouldn't be doing that sort of data grunt work.
Exactly. That is always gonna that's an ongoing battle, right? There's always kind of an ambiguity on, hey, does this fall on the software side, the technology side of the data engineering team, or is this the PIA, which is our team, business information analysis? Is this on PIA or is this on technology? That's an ongoing battle. Because we didn't have anything, we needed something. We took on the responsibility, did it ourselves. We have peers on the data engineering side and technology who are, very helpful. But of course, technology has other priorities. They support technology in the store. Their priority is to make sure that systems in the store are working, as opposed to, hey, does BIA have the data dictionary they need? So it's just consciously realizing that sometimes you have to say no. Another good book I would recommend, Not My Monkey. That's something that really helped me, focus on, okay, this is something that we could be doing, but should we really be doing this? Just because my team has the skill set to support something, does it really fall on my team? So you have to kind of politely start saying no to things and start holding people accountable for what they're supposed to do. Other teams, do you always succeed? Maybe not, but that's a start. The other thing, the way I differentiate a project that's for our technology group versus my group is, I tell the project owner, okay, are you trying to build a tool or an artifact that's going to support the business? Or are you trying to identify ways to improve your business processes using data? Right? Because a lot of times they'll come to us for tools. Hey, build us a tool where we can enter this information and it will, collect data in the database, but that's technology. So basically just defining the difference between what my team does and what the technology team does has helped us come a long way. Of course, you have to get buy-in. So my peer on the technology side, we work collaboratively. So a lot of it comes from collaboration. We put together kind of, a map for the organization. Like, okay, if you want to do X, Y, Z, the database team can help you. If you want A, B, C, the BIA team can help you. And it's a lot of just answering the same questions over and over again. Even though we have all this documentation, people are still going to come asking for stuff that probably BIA is not supposed to be doing. Technology is supposed to do it. You just have to keep reminding people, and eventually it catches on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Nimrod, I like the perspective you shared on failure. And I'm curious, is there like a certain failure or something that you have in mind that you really learned from?
Failure that I learned from. Well, I learned from all my failures. I'm trying to think of which one. So because I have so many. Let's see. I think for me, because the people aspect of things is always stressful for me. The data aspect, it's fun. I can do it. It's when I'm talking to people, I think one thing that I learned from my failures was reading the room. A big thing I've learned is the data story that I'm telling is going to have many different versions. It's going to tell the same story, but it's going to have many different versions depending on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to a district manager or a senior vice president person, on UPS or the UPS store side, I am not going to give them like a page-long story. Right? I'm not going to give them too much detail. I'm going to cut right to the chase and give them information that matters, because they don't need the details. Right? If I'm talking to a peer, I may give more information. And if I'm talking to my team, I'm going to go right into the weeds. So I learned this the hard way, but it's knowing your audience, reading the room, and just tailor your story for your audience. And that goes a long way.
That's a great tip. I wanted to make sure that as we get to last 10 minutes here that I didn't miss anybody's questions in there. So feel free to like post it in the chat again if you want. But one question, and I think Deepsha, I stole this from you on a Slack group that we're both a part of. But the question was, if you were to restart your data science journey, would it look different and how?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I lost
Sorry.
my-
If you were to restart your data science journey, would it look different and how?
Yes, it would look different for sure because it would be more intentional than it was. I would do a lot of, the research, the risk aspect of it, because I, up until like maybe 2 years ago, I never took any risks. Maybe I took a few calculated risks, but I was still on the conservative side. So if I had to start my data science journey again, I would take these risks early on and just, focus on learning more than I have. I did at some point, I felt like I stagnated. And then I had to kind of, wake myself up and be like, hey, go back, learn more. This is not the end of it, right? So if I had to start over, I would definitely take more risks early on. And maybe I'd be better off than I am today.
Well, you sound great. And I see so many people are asking, or saying you'd be a great manager to work for. So I did want to ask if your team has any open roles or anything that you would want to share in the chat too.
I don't have any open roles right now, but UPS is a large company, right? So I'm sure there are openings across the country. What I can do is, I'm sure you all have my LinkedIn, but I'm going to drop it in the chat anyway. Feel free to send me an invite. Feel free to connect with me. I also have some free slots I open up on my calendar. If you, go to my LinkedIn, actually, let me just post that too. I have free slots I have paid slots too, but I have free slots too. If, you would like to have a one-on-one chat with me about anything, if you just want to say hi, if you want to, just talk about data or dogs, I'm happy to do that.
I love that you do that. When did you start doing that?
So
Or what's the story behind it?
Yeah, there is. So last year I completed my I had celebrated my 5th year anniversary with UPS Store. And, I'm a manager now, so I have to, I can't just focus on my data skills. I want to also focus on my people skills. I realized that, this was a great time to kind of step outside my comfort zone and do what I am most anxious to do, which is interact with people. So I joined the mentoring club as a mentor, where I met a lot of good people, a lot of, people starting out in data science, and I got to network a lot. But I just didn't like the way the mentoring club was set up, in the sense that, I didn't have a lot of flexibility with, calendar and scheduling and things like that. And I was like, why do I need the mentoring club? I can just do this on my own. And so I just put around like December is when I was like, all right, I'm going to put out a link on my own, and I created some slots on my calendar, and it's been fun. I get to meet a lot of interesting people. I met someone from, of course, India, because I'm from India. So a lot of Indian aspiring data scientists, but I met someone from Africa. There was someone from Canada. It's fun, So most of the times, people stick to the free one-on-one introductory session. Some go into the one-on-one where I can, help with resumes and, help with specific data problems and things like that. But it's a lot of fun. It's something I do on the side, and because I enjoy data, it kind of softens the blow for me to have to interact with people, so it helps.
I love that you do that. It's like making me think that would be really cool to set up for myself too, like having blocks of time where you could just connect with people and talk one-on-one.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Something that I usually ask in the beginning, and I hadn't asked this, but what is something you're most excited about in data science as you look to the year ahead for your team?
So this year, well, towards the end of last year, we started improving all our predictive models. We have 5 recurring ones that we use all the time. And one of those is what we improved towards the end of last year. And I got it to 98 to 99% accurate on a weekly level, which I love. I mean, 1% model error, like how is that possible, right? I was like, am I overfitting? I was like all skeptical about it. But it's been doing well. We've kind of built like a workflow based approach to predictive analytics, which allows us to continuously improve those models. So this year we're going to do that for all our models. And I'm super excited because it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
That's awesome. On the topic of mentorship too, do you have any tips for some of us here who want to be a mentor for someone, or things you've learned in doing those like one-on-one sessions with people?
Yeah, mentoring, look, I don't consider myself an expert in anything, right? The mindset is I'm always going to keep learning. But as a mentor, I can always help someone who's a few steps behind me on their learning journey. So that's what mentorship is to me. I don't consider myself an expert on anything. I'm just trying to help people who are probably a few steps behind me and tell them what I've learned. And hopefully it helps them in their journey. So if that's how you approach mentorship, you can start today. Just, reach out to your network, see if there's anyone that could benefit from your learnings, and voila, you're a mentor.
On the other side, have you had mentors in your career?
Yes. I'm very fortunate for the mentors I have. In my case, I was lucky because they were also my managers. I've had different managers in my journey at the UPS store, and I consider 3 of them my mentors who I've learned a lot from. One has taught me everything I know about the organization and data, and one has taught me the work ethic aspect of it, and one taught me how to subtract. So I've learned a lot from my mentors, and I've kind of taken the best from everyone, and I feel like that's helped me succeed a lot.
Thank you. I write random notes sometimes when I'm talking, and I remembered towards the beginning, you were talking about balancing empathy and accountability for leadership, and you gave us some great recommendations like Subtract. Are there any other books or resources you would recommend for leadership?
All right, books. Let's see. I'm not sure. So, because you're all data people, I'm sure most of you have read it, but I really love the Freakonomics series. I would also recommend, again, this is not specifically for leadership or data, but I love The Undoing Project by Michael Lewis. If you've read Moneyball, it's the same author. So again, a lot of sports references. My husband had to explain a lot to me. And then Unapologetically Ambitious is another book I loved. It was more for like female leadership, but a lot about leadership. So Unapologetically Ambitious, Freakonomics, Moneyball, Undoing Project. And of course, Subtract, because I also mentioned that earlier.
That's awesome. I was trying to put them into the chat here right now as well. And when I go through the recording, I will try to just make a separate section that says book recommendations too. But thank you so much, Namrata, for joining us. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you and getting to learn from you. Is there anything that you kind of thought we were going to ask you that you want to share with us, or anything left that you want to tell us?
No, I didn't really prepare for this because I didn't know what to prepare for this. So this was a lot of fun, really good questions. I really love the energy. I would love to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. If you just want to say hi, drop me a message. I'll accept your connection request. And if you have any more questions for me, just feel free to shoot me messages on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you. This is really fun for me.
Thank you so much. I love the energy that you brought to today as well. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
You too. Thank you. Bye, everyone.